Important shifts in Nigeria's political and security context have occurred since the 2015 elections, presenting both evolving and new risks to the 2019 elections.
And ahead of that poll, the United States Institute of Peace, USIP, has raised the alarm on the likelihood of violence in at least 8 states. The U.S. Institute listed the states with greater risks of election violence to include Adamawa, Anambra, Ekiti, Kaduna, Kano, Lagos, Plateau, and Rivers. USIP said the report is based on its interactions with Nigerians from different sectors. Now, while it said it was up to the combined efforts of political parties, security agencies, and the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to curb violence in the election, it said the greater work lies with the electoral body.
Yeah, elections in Nigeria have been known to be marred by all sorts of irregularities and violence, especially in some parts of the country identified as flashpoints. 100 days to the elections, what plans are stakeholders putting in place to ensure the safety of lives and property before, during, and after the conduct of the polls? All right, we have joining us the Publicity Secretary of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators, Ambrose Ibuke, in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
I guess if I have to make an interpretation, this institute will be the Nigerian version of the United States Institute of Peace. Would that be a good comparison?
That would be a good comparison, because actually the institute is supposed to mediate because as against litigation.
Okay.
There's always this time when you litigate, you always try to create enemies most of the time, and you don't. They say no two people go to court and remain friends after.
Exactly.
So what we try to do is to promote peace,
right,
and to promote conciliate among differences.
All right. Let's come to our issue this morning. Some states have been named as flashpoints. Likely flashpoints. It could happen, it may not happen, but the point there is there's a likelihood from everything people have talked about, everything that has been happening so far. What concerns do you have when you hear of this?
Well, when we go back the history of the political history of Nigeria, it has always been marred by violence. Why we have not been able to pinpoint that, because I think enough research has not been brought to the fore to actually fine-tune or bring out, extract reasons why we do what we do. I will remember in the 60s, the Operation Wetie, where that actually the regional election parliaments, the Western region, in the early 60s, just like 3 years after the independence.
Yes.
And what that did to us, it actually roped us into a civil war. That was the aftermath. That was what led to the coup of January 15, 1966, that led to the counter coup of 29 July 1966, and finally went to the war that started 30th May 1967 and then ended 12th January 1970. And we have not recovered from the effect of that. So, over the years also, remember the 1979 election, there was a lot of violence, and in fact, that's what brought it to a mathematical equation of 2/3. What does it mean?
12 to 30.
Yes.
12 to 30. So we have always been having this. And then when we came back to the what we have now, uninterrupted civilian democratic rule from 1999, we have had issues of ballot snatching. We have had issues of assassinations of political top guns in different parties. We have had issues of people being killed, even as recently as this year. Some politicians have been killed in Lagos, in Ekiti, in Osun. We have had a lot of that happening. In Enugu State, between 1999 and 2007, we have been having school principals being murdered because of political reasons. So we have denigrated ourselves. We have degraded that law. For USIP to do this, it must have been a pattern. One of the things you consider when doing this kind of research is the issue of patterns, the paradigms that exist in those areas. And one of this is that the states being listed are volatile states in terms of political animosity that is going on in that state. For example, when you say Ekiti just came out from fresh election, I will know how it all went. And the people are still bitter from that. But from the efforts of the current governor, we must give kudos to him. Even this morning, he was saying that he will complete projects that the predecessor started. That is the way to go, to see whether there can be healing. And then in states like Adamawa, we know what went down the rain. And that is the state where the candidate for the People's Democratic Party, which is the opposition party, is from. And the APC itself, they have not gotten its house in order because there's a lot of trade blamings on the primaries that just went there. And then Anambra is a mix. of, you know, the APGA guy is there, they're accusing him. In fact, recently, some church leaders walked out on the governor in protest. It's always been a hotbed, Anambra, since 1999. So that is given to them.
And seeing that the vice presidential candidate of the opposition is from that state, so it's going to be...
The PDP is mixing up there, the APC is also strong there, and then the APGA, the ruling party, is also strong there. And, you know, there are a lot of money bags and big men in Anambra.
Speaking of money bags,
Anambra has the highest number of indigenous millionaires, billionaires.
Yeah, absolutely. And you would think that such states like Anambra, with quite an enlightened and educated number of men and women, would not be a theater of war, like it's been listed on this now. Now, what do you think is the underlying factor, really, for this? Well, what some have called do-or-die politics that Nigeria plays. I mean, since independence, 3 years after independence, we have had this cycle. What is responsible for it?
I think like Nigerians went into independence. The root cause of some of these things was there's the ethnic card being played
by the political class.
And when they are sharing money, they don't play the ethnic class.
The founding fathers.
When it comes to sharing the political loot, they don't play the ethnic card. But when it comes to winning elections for themselves, they play the ethnic card.
Yeah, like the vice president said that the political class actually belongs to one tribe.
Of course.
That tribe is a tribe called corruption.
Where they are sharing the political dividends, they don't talk of this thing. They meet in their various clubs and share it. But when they want to divide for their personal gains, they bring that. That's happened. Even remember the parliament election in Lagos, where it was said that Zik, actually the great Zik of Africa won, and then there was an ethnic card played. He was displaced in Lagos, and then he went back to the East and displaced somebody from that Cross River area, Akwa Ibom area, that also won, and that started this ethnic card thing. And then when it came to Operation Wetie, the federal government was playing against, did they want to give it a Awolowo, and that was the issue started. And then each person now, there's entrenched. All the political parties from independence were created across ethnic lines. It's even now that we are, reinventing the wheel, trying to make a national party. Those days, the MPC was for the North, the NCNC was for the East, and then the
UPN. Okay,
AG,
we have
Action Group
was for
you're
talking about the First Republic.
First Republic, and those were the people across ethnic lines. Those has always been the fault lines in our polity. And so
did our founding fathers make that grievous mistake?
I think it was planned by the British. It was not a mistake. It was actually planned to, I think the British didn't have the good intention to leave Nigeria in peace. Because when you see in fact, there was some document released when Nigeria clocked 50 that were declassified. And you could see some of the things that they did. They actually refused to hand power to some section, adding power to some section, play up the ethnic cards so that we will always have issues. And they have succeeded in that today. So what has happened is also the second factor apart from the ethnic line has always been the issue of, as you said, win at all costs. A former president in Nigeria, when he was incumbent president, told us that politics is war. He didn't mince words. He said politics in Nigeria is war. So when a politician is going into politics, he sees this as warfare. And in war, there's a loser, there's a winner.
Okay, let's talk about this report. The report was saying that the report by the US USIP or USIP was talking about comparing the 2015 election to the 2019 election, and it was saying that a standard had been achieved set for 2015, and anything that goes below that for 2019, then there's certainly going to be violence. How have we evolved, and from what you are seeing right now, are we on track in trying to improve on 2015?
Or even go below what
like
we achieved in
I don't know if you know the Mo Ibrahim Award for Leadership in Africa.
Exactly.
For the past 4 years, nobody has won it.
Nobody has won it.
That shows there's a leadership deficit in Africa. In Africa. Now, in 2014, it was one of the most bitter electioneering campaign. The propaganda was high, and there was a lot of brickbats from both sides. And that polarized Nigeria along. In fact, people quarreled, and the social media attenuated that and made it, hyper. But people quarreled along that line. But what came to fore was that there were political bootlickers around the leaders that were urging leaders in the wrong directions. That sometimes when you engage the leaders themselves, you find out that these leaders are actually what they are portrayed to be by their political acolytes. And that has been the problem. So what saved the situation was so charged that some people were even insinuating that if they didn't win the elections, that Nigeria will disintegrate. That threat was there. But what saved us? Some people have called it divine intervention. Some people have called it, well, that the gentleman there who was president there, Goodluck Jonathan, has always re-emphasized and reiterated that in the blood of any Nigerian is not what is political ambition.
Yes.
And in truth to that, we were told on how his political acolytes were there watching the results, and when he saw the trend, he just went into his room, put up a telephone call to the APC candidate then, who is our president now, Muhammadu Buhari, and congratulated him. And that doused a lot of tension. So by the time the acolytes were trying to, reinvent themselves, mobilize for some kind of cantankerous actions, the deed has been done. And some people went back, and even the party went back and blamed him and said, what do you mean? Why do you need to consult us? So, as Yusipa said, that standard has been set. Now, there was a role played by some peace committee, led by people like Matthew Asakuka and the Sultan of Sokoto, Abdulsalam Abubakar. And they have started work again this time around. Sometime early last month, they had a meeting with President. They have also I think they had a meeting with the PDP candidate. They are going around again trying to have meetings. And the British High Commission, the American Consulate also have been involved. So this is also the pattern they did in the last election, trying to get the buy-in of the candidates to say, when we lose, will we go? And that should be the pattern. And I believe that the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, is a man that will keep to his word. And I think in one of the reports, it was reported that he said that if he loses, that he will go. So it's only the political actors around these people that urge them on. And I believe that no candidate should listen to those political jobbers. Okay,
so now how... The USIP report actually puts a lot on the shoulders of INEC, that a lot will depend on how INEC conducts this 2019 election. With what you have seen so far in Osun, Ekiti, and the other elections that this present INEC has conducted, how confident are you that INEC will actually be above board in 2019 in such a way that all sides will feel satisfied with whatever the outcome is?
Well, the INEC, this current INEC started with faltering lines. They faltered a lot. The initial elections conducted by this INEC was declared, almost all the elections were, the first 4 elections were declared inconclusive along the line. So there was a joke about INEC meaning inconclusive electoral commission. Well, that was a joke by so many people. But, that was just underscores the pattern they used. But I think they're trying to catch up. But we didn't expect the INEC of now to falter, because the INEC of Atahiru Jega set so much parameters in place, so much standard. The use of card reader was even brought in. Jega INEC had more issues because this card reader was not part of the Electoral Act then. Yes. And there was issue of incident form. There was even an issue of electoral card being thrown out of some court cases because of technical reasons. Now it has been included. Now, because of the death of Prince Audu of the election in Kogi State, yes, a lot of things that were not taken care of have been put in place. And so there's a lot of things going on now. And INEC is learning. Now, Osun and Ekiti, there was a problem. The problem was the problem of vote buying, right there at the polling unit. INEC had an example in Ekiti, where voters could actually take the ballot paper, take a picture of the ballot paper with their phones, go to party agents, show them, look, I voted for you, pay me. Or sometimes they just raise the ballot paper, there's an agent behind, and he captures it and paid. So to remove that issue of vote buying, yes, what they tried to do in Osun was to, create polling booths where the exclusivity of each voter is inside the cubicle, where people are not actually, external influences are not allowed to even see what you're doing.
And you also don't go with your phone.
You don't go into the polling booth. You can come with to the unit with it, but you can't go into it. So with all this, because tricksters will always look for ways to
circumvent.
One of the things that has happened between 2014, 2015 and now is that issue of ballot box snatching has reduced.
Yes.
Because the ballot box has been rendered almost useless outside the polling unit. Yes. Now, INEC should sustain that. For INEC also to make election credible, all elections, which they have promised anyway, that all the elections results must be declared at the polling units and should be posted online real-time on INEC website. This will remove the issue of manipulations, because what has happened in the past was that you do your collation and then somebody goes to the INEC collation center and just changes everything. But if an election is done right there in the polling booth and all the party agents attest to the result and get signed, the election results should be uploaded immediately.
But INEC itself has not failed to express concerns about, 2019 elections being threatened, both by the outcome of the primaries that were held and, of course, the vote buying that we just talked about. So INEC, too, seems to be seriously concerned. What can INEC do to actually allay its own fears and allay the fears of, Nigerians as to 2019?
Well, as to 2019 violence, I think INEC has been very low on voter education.
Okay.
There should be increased budgets and increased activity around voter education. Voter education has not been very articulated during this period of 2019 election, because National Retention Agency, I don't know where they are. They are not being heard. A lot of things are and the way that the CSO, the civil society organizations, and so first of all, the electorate has to be educated on why they should not be used as tools for violence.
All right, we have to leave it here now. Ambrose Igboke, the Publicity Secretary of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.